It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, July 4th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's talking more Dev Camp.
All right.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is July 4th in the US of A, so I hope everybody is having a great holiday weekend so far.
And using brown mustard and not that lousy yellow mustard, which is garbage.
Oh, continue. God, bringing up the food discourse early, are we? I have no horse in this race as I do not eat any kind of mustard, but I hope everybody's having a cookout in the States. And if you're in Canada, you're still on vacation from Canada Day earlier in the week and just enjoying whatever you can in this holiday weekend time. But unfortunately, the discourse must continue when it comes to Maxim Shabanov, because I think there were a lot of Flyers fans upset that he did not sign with the Flyers and he did sign with the Islanders. And I think what I bring it back around to every time is sometimes it's not that your team is bad and he didn't want to sign there. It's that he just thought he had a better opportunity somewhere else, and that the Islanders do have more room for him to have a top six role than the Flyers do at the moment. And so I don't think that's a knock on the Flyers. I just think he had a slightly better opportunity with the Islanders, guaranteed.
I mean, my mind didn't even go there. My mind went to, there's Brighton Beach, and that's a big Russian community. Varlamov's there, Sorokin's there. Now there's another Russian. Like, it's all good. Like, that's a place Russians want to be.
I think so. So I wouldn't read too much into it in terms of the pros and cons of the Flyers per se. I think he just found the situation that was best for him.
But it was annoying the way he did it. That's fair to be annoyed.
Oh, sure.
I was annoyed too, and I don't even care. Like, I was annoyed, just like, dude, just say your team already. Like, he's been waiting weeks. So I get that part.
Now, on the Flyers side of things, as of recording, we still do not have a full NHL calendar, which, to be noted, last year they released the NHL schedule on July 2nd. So it's already a little bit later than it has been.
They just signed the agreement, and so there's probably some fine-tuning,
Yeah, so that is true that they just confirmed and locked down all the details around the Olympic participation. We're going to get more into that next week on the show, but so that could affect the schedule.
I think so.
I will give them that. But nonetheless, I would like the full schedule. But we did get an update.
Rachel's demanding the schedule now.
Listen, I got stuff to plan. I have a life to live, and I would like to know what I'm working with here, and also figure out what dates on the Flyers calendar I'm excited for. So there's all of that. But there is one date that we do know about that I'm a little bit more excited about, to be honest, and that's in the preseason schedule. I did note when we talked about the preseason schedule, there was an away game against the Washington Capitals, but we just found out that game is not going to be in DC. It's going to be in Hershey. So I think that's really fun, and looking forward to that. I think it'll be a really great opportunity to play in that rink, and give those fans something.
Great town. It smells like chocolate. It's, I've been there a few times. I really like it. I thought you were going to say the straw hat, the gritty straw hat day. I thought you were going to bring that up.
No. I mean, I can bring that up, but I think that again, some of the phantoms, obviously, that might play in that game because it's preseason will be very familiar with that building.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it should be really fun. Now, the straw hat that Russ is referring to is that the Flyers announced what their giveaways were going to be over the course of the season, as well as the community caravan returning for the summer. So yeah, there's going to be a straw hat giveaway. There's a really cool little keychain, I think. There's a gritty bottle opener, like fridge bottle opener. So look out for those.
Everybody needs a bottle opener, even though nowadays it's really just for beer, really nothing else. Well, Coke. Listen, you can still get Coke in a bottle.
Yeah, I use it just to hold stuff on my fridge as a magnet, but
that's the last thing it's made for is that. It has better uses than that.
It has a magnet on it. I think that's perfectly functional.
All right.
At any rate, we'll, I guess, find out when those things are being given away, when the schedule comes out.
I mean, I feel like you're playing that on the fourth line when it's a third liner. That's all.
Listen, I will appreciate those giveaways when they happen. But with the community caravan, it's something they've been doing every summer. So they're going to do a few days in a row at the shore. So they'll be down in Ocean City, North Wildwood, and Sea Isle. So that'll be fun. And I'm always intrigued because they always do a date in Delaware, and it's usually in Newark. And I always why don't they ever go to Wilmington? It seems like they skip Wilmington, which is a bigger city. But what do I know?
Weird. Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, I know they have a nice rink in Newark, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But that's just nitpicking. But it's fun when they do this with Gritty and have some of the players there and clinics and stuff for the kids. So looking forward to that. Now, continuing our look at Flyers development camp and how some of the guys are doing, we didn't really talk about some of the depth picks in this year's draft, those guys. So Max Westergaard was the shortest guy that the Flyers picked in the draft at 5'10".
He's just bigger than me. Just bigger.
One thing is that he's still so super young. He does not turn 18 until September, and you could tell. I mean, he looked like a baby out there, right?
He did. I mean, I noticed the skating and his passing's pretty good, but yeah, you do more identify him as the small guy there than anything great he was doing on the ice. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but yeah, he's got stuff there.
Yeah. Now, the thing about him that I think is really intriguing is that you could see flashes of his skill, and he's more known for his away from the puck play at the moment. But I did think, to your point, his skating looked pretty solid while he was there. But he got a really strong look at the SHL level at the end of this past season. He had been playing in the more junior league, but had a great playoff run in the SHL with his club team there. So he's going to play a full season with that team. And as we know, that the SHL is such a strong league for guys to really step up their game quickly because they're playing against men. And so, he'll be just turning 18 when he starts playing in that league. So it's going to be a jump for him. But I think given the experience he had this past season, the adjustment should go pretty smoothly. And you never know. He's one of those guys that could take a jump.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on him. That's what we do.
Yeah, it is interesting because he's Finnish, but he's playing in the Swedish league.
But I mean, they've had all kinds,
Yeah, so I think that gives me some pause in terms of this is the guy I want to track because he is playing in the SHL so young.
Yeah.
Lwick, who is a defenseman from, I don't know. I don't think it's that hard.
I think it is.
But he's the other Red Deer guy, as we said. I think for me, the best part of his game is the defensive side of things. And that's really hard to suss out in drills in day one of depth camp. So I really want to see him in the scrimmage to see how he performs against plays in the rush versus in close. I think that's kind of hard to determine where he fits in the strata of all the different players that are there.
Yeah, I mean, his skating looked good, and he's definitely defensive. I saw him break up some plays, so I was able to notice that, and so that's more than I watched him in Red Deer, to be honest. So that's good. I mean, it's something where I felt like, yeah, he was noticeable.
Yeah, and then Nathan Quinn, who was the 6th round pick, honestly did not
Didn't
stand
notice
out to
him.
me
No.
at all. And there were so many guys there I was trying to keep an eye on. But again, I think having that scrimmage on Sunday is going to give us a great opportunity to see
Yes.
him in game action.
Or even
And
the Saturday 3-on-3, maybe he could shine
yeah,
a little there.
yeah, so we'll definitely follow up and report on him a little bit more. But in the meantime, there's some returnees and camp invites who made an impression that we didn't really talk about on yesterday's show. So we are going to get into them coming up next. The Stanley Cup playoffs are long over now, but we're into peak summer sports season with soccer, baseball, the WNBA, and more. There's never been a better time to see it live, and Gametime makes getting into the building fast and affordable. Gametime gives you last-minute ticket deals, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices drop the closer you get to first pitch or whatever start of whatever summer activity you're looking in. You can score big without overpaying. You can save huge with those zone deals. They pick the best seats at the lowest price. Gametime includes fees up front and backs every order with their ticket coverage guarantee, covering cancellations, job loss, even offering 24-hour returns. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We just referred to the scrimmage at development camp, which is taking place this Sunday at 6 p.m. And we are going to report on said scrimmage for the Monday show. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we'll have a new nemesis of the week and a new offseason poll question, which we are going to get to the results of this week's a little bit later in today's show. Hunter McDonald, I think, is somebody that's definitely polarizing in the Flyers community, just because he's somebody that has been really put forth by the team a lot about the future of the blue line for the Flyers, and that, his physicality and, what he can do out there. He's like a bruiser, but he also has skill. He's kind of being sold as the future of the Flyers blue line in a lot of ways. And so to see him back at development camp, I think was really important, just to kind of see how far he's come. We've talked about him quite a bit over the past year because of his time on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. And I think that, the first half of the season this past year was not great for him. He just kind of stagnated, but to give him credit, I think the second half of the season was much, much better. I thought his defensive play was better. He was very much more in control. The bad penalties kind of dissipated a little bit. And so he did make some significant progress there. And so what did you see from him at Dev Camp relative to that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good skater. He's a good passer. He will lay that check, that big hit. All those things are fine. But if you're going to lay the big hit in the corner, you better come away with the puck, or your team better come away with the puck. And he was not coming away with the puck. And that is something I noticed over and over again. And even Porter Martone was smart enough to just kind of pin the puck there until he could eventually come away with it. And that's where Hunter McDonald was kind of like outsmarted almost. And so it's like, that's a part of the game he has to work on. It's great that you could lay that bone-crushing hit, but the name of the game is to actually have the puck.
Right. And I think where his improvement shone through a little bit more was more an open ice play versus play against the boards. And so definitely that competition and those board battles are something he's going to have to work on up against stronger skilled players. And
as he
Porter
moves up the
Martone,
ladder.
was great as an example for that, right? Because
Yes.
Porter Martone, again, I think he was just kind of playing with some guys out there,
Yeah.
in terms of, because he's just so highly skilled.
Yes.
And I think Hunter McDonald, like, it just showed those one-on-one battles, like how far he has to go. And not that he
Right.
can't get there.
No, I mean, I'm just saying this is something that he's got to work on.
Right. And I think he knows that. And, he talked about it on day 2 after his skating session, saying, he has to prove that he's not a one-dimensional player, that he isn't just the guy that's going to throw hits. He has to have a well-rounded game in order to make the Flyers. And so, I think that's a good attitude to have going into this season for him. But this is going to be a huge, huge year for his game.
Yeah, he's got to be one of their best guys all year. Can't just be half a year. So, yeah, this will be a good prove-it year for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he balances, that physicality with the desire to improve other things and not have the former kind of go by the wayside there, because that tends to happen sometimes when you're working on something. But I do think, the player development crew and the new Lehigh Valley coaching staff are going to have to pay close attention to that and work with him. And I know there's going to be ebbs and flows with his game this upcoming year, but I really think like he can come out the other side of it a much, much better hockey player if things go according to plan.
Yeah, really to make it at the next level, he has to do these things. He's not making it if he doesn't do that.
So Heikki Ruohonen is somebody who I loved from jump when they picked him last year. He's just such an exciting, dynamic skater. And I think that when you look at what he did this past season and the big step forward he took at World Juniors, I think I got even more excited about him as a player and a prospect. Obviously he's not a small guy. He's above 6 feet. So he's not one of these like small skilled players that people worry about moving forward. He has the size to really make a go of it here. But what did you see at camp this year versus last year?
Yeah. So for last year, just to kind of go through it. So, I covered the Fall Classic. He was there. I covered the World Juniors. He was there. I interviewed him. So I could see the progression. Now I get to see him again compared to that. And it's all live. And that to me is the best way to do it. And so, yes, I do notice the speed increase, a little bit more muscle and a little bit more confidence. He's a guy still that's always going to show these offensive flashes. I don't know how heavy those are going to get, but he's got a sound two-way game. So he may not be like a tremendous offensive player, but he might have more offense to give. It's just he's young, and we'll see what comes out, when he plays at Harvard. And since I cover out of Princeton, I will definitely go see him at Harvard too, playing when they play Harvard.
Yeah, I think that'll be key to see how he does in the NCAA. I think that'll be a really good kind of benchmark for him to set in terms of where he is versus where he needs to get to.
Which is becoming a harder league by the minute. More guys just jumped today. It's more really top prospects. So but this will be the best year of NCAA hockey ever. So it will be a challenge for him.
I can't wait. Yeah. And I certainly hope they play him on the wing, because I think that's where he has the most potential to make the NHL. So I want Harvard to play him on the wing so we get to see that as opposed to him playing at center. As far as some of the camp invites, there were a few random standouts. We talked about the goalie yesterday that was stoning everybody for a little bit.
Goalie X. But don't know who it was.
But there were some skaters as well who stood out. You wanted to talk about Jack Anderson.
Yeah, because he goes to a college I've never heard of, Linwood. Like, where's Linwood University? I still didn't even get a chance to look it up. I don't know, but that's okay. So I watched him, and he's a big guy. He's 6'6". Now I looked up his age. He's 22. He's a good skater. But what I noticed is he was frustrating a lot of guys. He has a very long reach, and he was breaking up plays all over the place, and he would stop them dead. And so, like, if you weren't really paying attention to the drills, you wouldn't see anything other than he just stopped plays dead. And so, like, if you're looking for like these flashier kind of things, you weren't going to see him when he was out on the ice because he was stopping them. And so he clearly has some ability. And I looked up some of his stats, and in 32 games, he had 55 shots and 44 blocks. That's really good at the college level. Like, that's That's solid for a defenseman. He's not really an offensive defenseman, but the fact that he shoots that much at least gave him the 10 points he got, because it gives his teammates chance to get some points. But the blocks are big. And so you look at that, you see that he's going to Michigan Tech, and then you're like, you know what?
That's not a bad spot to be.
It's not. Yeah. You keep an eye on this guy, because if he has a good year, they could try and sign him as a free agent. So he's a good guy to have come in. And I personally did not know him as a player, and think there's enough reason we'll at least keep an eye on him this year.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a few older guys that get these camp invites.
Yep.
And I think, they're looking for potential AHL signings at the end of the next season in these cases. So I think, it was a similar situation for Matteo Giampa, who's a Canadian, 6 foot tall, 21-year-old. I don't know that he stood out in any particular good way. I think he was a mixed bag, but I think that's kind of why guys like these two are there. It gives them an opportunity to maybe get a pro contract when they're done their college careers.
Yeah, I mean, he gets to learn from some really skilled people in camp, and so that those things are always good for players.
Yeah, so Tim Lovell was there as well. He's on the defensive side of things, but what did you see in him?
So I saw some Freddie Meyer in him. Because he's 5'10", he's a defenseman. He kind of had a heavy shot. He was a good skater. He's a better skater than Freddie, but Freddie was pretty good for his day. And probably people are like, he's 5'10". He couldn't. Yeah, I would look at him for the AHL. Like and he had an odd year. Like he played in the DEL. I think it was for Adler Mannheim, and then he goes to Liga, and then he's in Michigan. Like, it's all over the place. That's a journey, man. So, I noticed him. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, as we always say, you can sign as many defensemen as you want in the AHL because there are no limits and you always need them. So
and they need them. They lost some.
Right. So I think this is just, again, the reason behind these camp invites. It's not just undrafted players. It's guys with potential to get minor league contracts that'll help the Flyer system in the long run. In the meantime, we are going to talk about your poll results on whether or not you think Jett Luchenko and Porter Martone are going to crack the Flyers lineup this season. We're going to discuss those results coming up next. All right. So on Monday's show, we presented the question to y'all. Do you think either Jett Luchenko or Porter Martone crack the Flyers lineup for 8 or more games this season? Let us know why you picked your answer in the comments. And we talked about why we picked the number 8, because 5 is kind of just a throwaway tryout. When you get to that 9-10 game, then contract things kick in. So we thought 8 would be the good borderline number to discuss here. And we picked that number specifically. So we're going to talk about your results now. A lot of votes in this one. And the highest vote getter at 42% was both Will. That is bold. That is bold. Very bold, right?
Yeah, that's bold. I mean, there's always that chance. Me personally, from a development standpoint, I don't want to see it. So, but I understand from a fan standpoint why you would want to see it. So I get it.
So I think, one of the comments around that was suggesting that another trade might happen. So John commented, I think another trade will happen, probably Brink, then both will get that opportunity. So I think, that's an interesting point that could happen, that could lead to it.
So yeah, this is the complicated thing with Jett Luchenko, because they either have to kind of string along his game slowly, play him the whole season, or, send him back at some point after the World Juniors to Guelph or some other team that maybe they got him traded to, like London. So it's a complicated thing. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. And Martone, if he doesn't make the team, I'm pretty sure he's going to go to Penn State, but we'll see.
Right. So Moto Tavira, sorry if I'm butchering that username, but they commented, both are ready and both will make it. Since Jett can't go to the AHL, another year in juniors won't help his development. He needs to play against pros. Since Martone could hang with the big boys in Worlds, he'll giddy up. So I think that point about Luchenko not being able to go to the AHL does make it a higher possibility that he'll have the chance to do it.
But I will always push back on he did not master the OHL. He didn't. He wasn't like a point and a half, 2 points a game. He wasn't one of the top scorers in the league. That's what he could do if he goes back this year. So there is something for him. It's just that, yes, we wish he'd be on a better team. But I don't automatically dismiss it saying there's nothing he can learn there, because I disagree with that.
Right. So if you're looking at the poll results in terms of people who said Luchenko only, that was 25%, and Martone only at 11%. And I think that sort of reflects that aspect.
The age, yes.
The age and the aspect of the conversation, because I think that need to get him on a different team in the OHL is important here.
It is. No, just no question it is. But I think it could happen. I've been talking to people, and they seem like if the Flyers push pretty hard, it could happen.
Right. And so Peel and Onions commented to that effect, saying, I think Jett is most likely, though Martone's confidence is convincing. For Jett, I vote no Juniors unless Guelph agrees to trade him. Juniors may be redundant regardless at this point, but that's the only way I'd be content with that path. He didn't flash in his cup of coffee last season, but we've seen much worse guys play for much longer. Give the kid a shot.
Yes. But do you want him to play at a super high level when he does play? Yes. Because like if he plays this year, he's going to be like a 35-point guy, and so like, is that what you want Jett Luchanko to be in the future? No. So you want to see him at a much higher level. You give him one more year, he may come in at the level that you want, rather than having to kind of battle through that, which isn't always the best way. Go look at Kokaniemi and some other players that it really hurt.
So I think that, you look at all of this, getting Jett out of Guelph is very high priority. We all agree on that, because him spending time in the OHL makes more sense if that takes place. And to your point, he'll come to the NHL much more prepared and ready to go. So I think that's the ideal path there. I think, with the Tyson Forster injury, there is something to the Martone situation developing much faster, and the fact that not only did he play in Worlds, but he has 3 Philadelphia Flyers, including the aforementioned Tyson Forster, that could go to bat for him to say, no, he'll be fine, and to maybe push that a little bit further along here. But I thought it was interesting, because we said that the results were Luchenko only is 25%, Martone 11%, but 23% said neither will. And I think, it's a possibility, but I think it's less likely than at least one of them.
Percentage-wise, it is, but I like the thought process of that vote. I do. And, so the thing with Martone is, when you have a bigger guy like this, there are things he definitely could do right now at the NHL. What he can't do is win a lot of puck battles, and that's how some of his points are. In the World Championships, he did only play 8 minutes. So, like, I don't want to discount the fact that he was there, because they reached out and he was there and we talked about it, but I don't want to make too much of it because he only played like 8 minutes. So that's where, the rubber meets the road a little bit.
I think so. And I think there's an argument to be made to not put them in the lineup with the Flyers until the tail end of the season.
Right.
Do a late season call-up, because I do think that this season is still going to be a little bit tumultuous and a little bit uneven for the Flyers. They could end up taking a step forward here, but I don't know that it'll be enough that you want to for sure integrate these guys early in that process. I think when Rick Tocchet has things dialed toward the end of the season, and then you can just put these guys in, plug and play in the new system that everybody knows, I think that is the situation that makes a lot more sense to me for both of these guys. But I'm not opposed to either one of them seeing 8 games. I just want them at the tail end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's all or nothing for both. I don't know if you can give Martone and full 8, because at some point college is going to be like, you have to be here. So you might be able to give him 1, but I don't know. With the new rules, can you give him 1 and send him there? I don't think so. Even with that. So the best bet for me is You play them, you give them a little preseason, you send them to college. When their season ends, whenever that is, hey, listen, if Penn State gets to the Frozen Four again and wins, that's better for him than going through an NHL season that will have ups and downs. And then if there's any time left, he could join the Phantoms or whoever, whoever's still playing. You worry about it then.
Yeah, that is fair. But I think it'll be an interesting decision-making process for the Flyers, and we will continue to talk about it as we get more information on these guys, seeing them play, and seeing where Luchenko is from an injury perspective, and all of that moving forward. But we'll get to do that at the scrimmage on Sunday, which we're going to talk about on Monday's show. Plus, we'll have our new nemesis of the week and a new poll question for y'all to answer. Looking forward to that. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can send in your mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts to any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no offseason. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great weekend, everyone.